Hey everybody, it's Jen. I am so excited this morning to come on to you or come on live. It's been a minute since I've been on live and see all of you guys. This is on StreamYard, which I haven't done in a while. And I'm super excited that Sandy and I were talking this morning and I was like, you know what? Let's just hop on. I love having conversations with her because we always get something really juicy, right? So um welcome to my live today. Welcome to having Sandra on here with me. And welcome to this conversation. We were talking about detachment, but also we still have to take action. So, Sandra, why don't you introduce yourself just real quick and then we'll just dive into the conversation. Because you know how we all just we get into the conversation and then it's really good. Again, guys, StreamYard, you can comment and I should be able to see it, but it's been a hot minute since I've been on StreamYard, so we'll see how it goes.
Hey, try to comment anyway, and then we'll see if she can see it.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm Sandra McEllis, and Jen and I are almost like identical twins. We have a lot of the same thought process and explanation of things with a twist of insane humor. Um, you know, so I'm here in the DC area, so I'm kind of in the hot spot of the world where there's just a lot of constant interaction of cray cray going on, and yeah, yeah. So I'm here to kind of bounce off detachment and some of the other messages that are coming through, and I'm sure you've gotten to know Jen by now really super well. We're both really raw and real and authentic and speak from the heart in the moment because we really are merged one with our higher selves. So we speak as one, you know? And then when you meet someone like Jen and I, our relationship is like we almost speak as one because we just really bounce in that frequency, and our guides just kind of work in that team unit, which is nice. So hopefully you all feel that today.
So I love that. And one of the things that I loved is when we met, we had equal parts of woo and reality, right? Which is one of the things that I feel like is so important. And I don't know if I told you about this when we were talking the other day, but I was on the call because I went through the certified angelic advisor training with Radley Valentine. And one of the things that was on one of the calls that we did was don't be so spiritually, I can't remember exactly how it was said. It's a quote and I don't want to mess it up, but something about don't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. And that hit me the other day and I thought, you know what? That's what my mission has been. This whole, like, my overall mission is to help break the cycles of lack and poverty and lack mentality, because it really does come down to the way we think. And so when you and I met, that was one thing that I loved right away, is we could talk all the woo and all the galactic and all of those things and still bring it down to this human level. And like, how do we take action steps with our daily life? And which is what we were talking about this morning, which is why we decided to jump on here, is like, let's talk about this. How do we have that spiritual detachment, knowing that as long as we're in divine flow and we're doing the things, but also we still have to take action steps. We can't just sit back. And I know we were talking about this like last week, that our guides are like, it's time to step up. Like, light workers are being called right now to be actively involved in their daily. And I think one of the things that I've seen across the board is, I know that there's like, get me off this planet. What the hell is happening? Do you know what I mean? Like, so many people are like that. And it's like, no, that's not the point. Like, the point is you're here on purpose and you need to spread light and love. And that's what you're called to. So hi, everybody. I see a notification that there's people coming on. Know that this is on StreamYard. So you should be able to comment and we should be able to see it. So if somebody wants to test that out for me right now and just say hi or something and let me see if the comments are coming through. And then we'll go back to Sandy, what I just, bleh. Like, what's your
That's
thoughts on
okay.
that?
That's okay. I receive it. You know, when you are really in commune with yourself and you just know stuff, you don't need to be this bullhorn and up on a pedestal of being spiritually correct, or put your spiritual props up to prove that you're something or you're in the know. You know what I mean? And I think one of the reasons why you and I see such similarities to each other is because we're very down to earth.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, if no one actually overheard some of the things we were talking about, they would just think, they're just somebody else in the vicinity, seems pretty normal to me. But we're actually pretty freaking out there. At least I know for a fact I am, and I know for
part
a
of the
fact you are.
conversation that we're in.
I can go so deep, and so quick that it's like I scare most people off, which is why so much of this journey is solo. Mm-hmm. So much of it is just, really learning to be on the playground by yourself and entertain yourself as you're learning all of the playground equipment that's constantly changing. It's constantly changing. And so until you can learn to interact with yourself in those ways, you're not quite as strong as an individual when you go jumping into a lot of these groups, which is why we have all these people following these people that are out there right now, proclaiming their spiritual invested selves by offering you so much stuff. And so we lose a part of ourselves because we've never learned to really attach to the part of ourselves. So in order to learn that, we almost have to detach from persons, places, and things that have been programmed for us to follow because we're looking for answers through that. Which brings me to some of the topics that have been coming up lately. You've got these fires that are going on. You've got the air quality that's happening. So what are you seeing? What I see the last few days is both sides of the scale. People running around with masks on, scared to death, and then people out there jogging and running and panting on the corner street and sweating their tail off as if none of this is even occurring. So there's a huge degree of ignorance. And then I ask myself, why? And I think, well, some people think they can't step out of that because it's not their job. They really have to be on their own cycle of life because that's what they're programmed to do. And stepping out of it requires work and action. And so some people don't want to do that either.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I think is really important that you said is this is a lonely journey. Like when you really truly dive into this spiritual awakening for yourself, it is kind of lonely because there's not very many people you can talk to. Or at least for me, my journey was there wasn't very many people that I could talk to and 1, feel safe, and 2, not feel judged, and 3, be able to ask some hard questions. Right. And one of the things that I teach, and one of the things that I like, this has been from day one, the whole reason that I created Embodied Grace Community, which is the Facebook group, is so that people can come in and ask those hard questions and not be ridiculed and not be judged and not be like, let's ask real questions and get real answers. And the thing is, none of us have exactly the right answer, right? Like nobody's a guru. Like if somebody's claiming to be a guru, I would say run the other way, like honestly. Now, of course, at the same time, if you're drawn to it, listen and see what resonates. But discernment is something I speak about all the time. Is you have to discern what is for you and what isn't. And then how far down the rabbit hole do you really want to get? And one of the things that keeps coming back for me is, yes, there's misery in the world. There always has been. But where are you focusing and what do you want to focus on? And then also what are you called to advocate for? Because right, there are some people who are called to advocate on some of those things that I don't want. That's not my wheelhouse. That's not where I want to be. But I feel like if we all trust where we're supposed to be and where we're supposed to be bringing light and love and open conversations, it doesn't matter. It could be in the darkness if that's where you're called, but it doesn't have to be either. So there's this whole myriad of things going on. And I feel like this is an important and timely information or timely time to be speaking about this because I have an inkling there will be some information coming out in the next few days that might be a little bit upsetting to people.
I'm hearing you. I'm feeling it. I'm sensing it. And, what you're talking about with trust, trusting yourself. And sometimes when we're so deeply in search of something that we're not sure of, we have a tendency to overcram information into us until we're really super confused. And so we've seen in the last 3 years, the YouTube spiritual communities, I mean, there's pop-up groups everywhere. And, there's people that really want to capitalize on a lot of that. So what we have is what I want to call the alarmist and the ones who feel like they need to be Paul Revere. I've got to get this information out. Everybody should know. Did you see the latest video on this? And it could be this clip and that clip. And so what I call that is, you're hitting everyone's alarm button.
Well, and that seems like a good thing to do, right? But really what you're doing is playing right into the energy and the frequency of what they like. That's how that energy keeps getting. It's like the more you acknowledge it and speak it, not that you can't not acknowledge it, right? Like that's the one thing you and I, yes, this is happening in the world, but where do you want your focus to be? Right? On the solution or the
Absolutely.
problem?
Yes. And so much of it has the alarm bell of fear. It has a, and even me, who I feel is like got my crap together because I have done my work. I will see something and it's like, oh, what's, because everything to me is filtering information, right? Because I can decipher it and not own it and not let it stick on me and not carry it. Because I've been doing my work, and I do my work every day to clean my energy.
Mm-hmm.
But if I am to push something and listen to it, sometimes it's like,
yeah.
And then it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, no. But there's so many people out here following so much of this information that they're accustomed to these peaks and valleys of hypersensitivity, and they thrive on that 11th hour adrenaline rush to have responses and reactions. But this is what I say. If I take the information in my transmitter and I'm going to put it out, I need to align it and ask, am I to put this out?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I could cause harm to one person, that's one person too many. And much of the information is to bibbity bobbity boo through my filtration systems so that I can learn to be a better transmitter and a receiver, right? To become stronger. But you've got so many people out there pushing predictions and pushing. And what do we have right now? Oh my God, we have right now the whistleblowers. Now everybody's pushing the button of UFOs to crash sites, and we're seeing this and that. And we all know that's a huge distraction, even though some of it is true and it's been around for a hell of a long time. And
right.
And then you've got people out going, I'm going to be communicating with the spiritual community of the galactics, and I'm ready. And I'm like, you can't even handle a wind of energy that knocks you off your feet. How are you going to handle the energy of an extraterrestrial being who's so much more than a physical being? How are you going to handle that energy? That's like saying, I'm going to go plug into the power station of my neighborhood, and you're going to get electrocuted.
Right. So I'm giggling as you're speaking because I know we haven't talked. I mean, we got on this morning and we're like, before we even go any further, let's just go live. Like, let's just go talk about this. But yesterday in my membership group, we were literally talking about this. And I think it's important because, like you said, it's going to bounce through your system, right? So we need to be looking at our nervous system. And again, this is not anxiety or anything like that. I'm talking about our physical nervous system because we are processing so much information and so much more than we've ever had to process at one time. And our nervous system, and I know you and I have talked about this yesterday, but on my call, what we were talking about yesterday was integrating all of our energy bodies, like not only the chakra systems, but then also we're more than this skin, right? Like we have our physical, and then we have a mental and emotional and spiritual, and then our cosmic or galactic or whatever you want to call. Like I always say, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, galactic. All of those layers are actually part of what make us up as a whole being. And those are all kind of coming online, even for people that don't understand that that's what's happening. So we're being asked to integrate in a new level. And again, I think it goes back to, can we know all this stuff is going on, find our center, calm ourselves down, stay grounded and detach from it. And this is like some of the gurus, right, in the past, like being in the now. Like, can you be in this present moment, knowing that, yes, this is what looks like is going on around all of that? And how are you going to let it affect you? Can you still stay grounded, take action steps, trust your own divine guidance, and do what you're called to do in your life without getting derailed from all of this outside noise?
Oh, without question. And that is a powerful, what you just said is extremely powerful and extremely important, that we are more than just this physical avatar. There are inside working parts to us that communicate with the outside that are never going to show up on an MRI and a CAT scan. Okay. They're just not. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I know that recently, one of my big lessons again is putting my finger on my own pulse, controlling my heart rate, what's going on around me while this energy is insane, and things are coming closer as the earth is rising. And also, I mean, not even to mention the geomagnetic, all that good stuff, but there's other things occurring that we're just not going to see, that's happening in the background, that is for our highest good. But it's all teaching moments, but you're not going to know the teaching moment when you're so busy living back there or jumping forward about who is saying what. Oh my goodness, now I got, and then you feed that thread by talking about it over and over
Even
and over
more.
again. And when you feed that thread, you're creating more chances for that to occur, even though it's something you do not want to see occur.
Oh.
So you're contributing.
We're so
again, you're not detaching.
We're same on the same wavelength. I almost exact words came out of my mouth yesterday morning in my membership group about speaking what you want to create. I kid you not. We were just talking about that yesterday, but I'm giggling again in the background because you're saying it won't show up in an MRI. And this is, we're going to get into the little galactic stuff here, right? So I don't think I've shared this. I don't even think this is in my book, but one time, well, this has happened more than one time, but I've had going through like airport security. There was this one time that I had, it looked like an ankle tracker, like a, if you get in trouble and you have to get an ankle bracelet thing, it looked like that, but it was not physical. There was nothing on my body, but I had a tracker going through DIA. And they were like, even the guy running it was like, this is so weird, because obviously there was nothing on me, but you could see it on the scanner thing. I had to call Dave Barnett and have this track. It wasn't hurting me, but it was like something was trying to see what I was doing and where I was going. Dave Barnett in Denver had to get it off for me. So there's some galactic woo that's a little bit fun. But also at the same time, that's not very often that those kind of things happen. So this is what I love. Again, like we're talking about, we can go way into the galactic woo-woo stuff and then come back down to, let's see what we're doing in our daily life and how do we discern and detach from those things, knowing that maybe there's more in the universe than we would have thought. And again, I think part of the spiritual journey is awakening to all of these different multidimensionality pieces. And still being in this human body, in this human experience, and doing the best you can as a human.
Absolutely. And you're cracking me up because, again, we're on the same wavelength. And I just literally said to someone yesterday, when I was supposed to go do something, and you have to go through metal detectors. And I said, you guys have no idea the sharp object that's about to come through that metal detector that isn't going to get detected. That's me. Because it's like I'm a sharp object and I'm not going to set off the metal detectors. You know what I mean? And the more work we do with ourselves, the sharper, the more in tune we become. And we just look like everyday people. We just get higher and higher in the frequency. And the more you do that, the more information you're filtering, and the more you're able to say, that's just information. Oops, not sticking on me. No Post-it notes all over me today of all of everybody else's, stuff that's getting put out there. And, I also was saying to someone else about, some things that are getting posted out right now about some people's predictions coming true, right? And then people are like, oh, so-and-so said that, so let's give them more validity. It's like, you guys, we've said for a long time, and I know, Jen, you and I have talked about this, people can't handle the truth. And the more truth that comes out, the more that's coming to the surface, the more it's going to make the cray-cray come out, because people don't understand what's happening. And most people want to have the ostrich effect with their head in quicksand, and they're actually comfortable there. And so we're going to see what's going to play out, and we've already known what's going to play out. But the thing is, how strong and anchored are we so we don't get sucked into that vortex of ridiculousness?
Right. Well, and my guides even, I'm trying to remember when I first even got the prediction, quote unquote prediction. Basically what my guide said is like, everything was as we know it is going to crumble. Okay. But there was never any fear behind it. They're like, just be prepared. Like things will change, which things always change. Right. But they're like, things are going to change. It's going to be a little, maybe scary, but my guides always are like, don't forget all is well in divine truth. So I think that's where the fear mongering is. They want to get you wrapped up in the fear mongering. But when we come back down to the base level, like if you can hold on to, again, that grounded space within you and know that all is well, regardless, unfortunately, it sounds like I'm like not understanding the gravity of what happens out there, but in divine truth, we have to come back to that anchor that all is well. And if we can hold that frequency of love and light and groundedness and stability, I feel like that's a word that's been coming up for me, is stability, regardless of what happens. Right. And I was thinking about this morning, getting ready, like think about in human history, all of the things that this is the end of the world, right? Like, and I'm not saying that's what's happening now, but I'm just saying, like, there's so many times throughout history where people have probably gone through something similar where they think this is the end of the world as we know it, and it has been, but it still continues, right? Until it doesn't. And I'm a little bit detached from that because I'm like, well, I mean, what are you going to do?
I hear you. And when you were talking, I was bringing it back again to the reality of the smoke and the smog,
Mm-hmm.
right? People are still going to go to and fro because they know there's an essence of oxygen out there that they can cleanly breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to stifle people if they're in trust that they're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not just ignorance walking around out here that all this stuff is either not occurring, or all the alarmists that it is occurring. There's those that are the more of the fulcrum of
Mm-hmm.
the balance, of trusting. And when you were saying that about the trusting, it's like I had to take a deep breath on that because I really wanted to let that integrate within my body, because trust is the key to everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's the key to everything. And that there's so much here unknown to us. And until you step into that inner self trust and work the frequencies of your own transmitter, you're never going to be able to understand anyone else's transmitter until you know thy own transmitter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And have control of that. Means controlling your breath. That means putting your finger on your own pulse. That means calming your heart rate so that you can respond to situations that are around you, because the chaos is only going to ramp up, my friends.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so are you going to be out there shallow breathing and you need a coach next to you saying, remember what we've talked about? And that's the stuff you and I do, Jen.
Yeah. Well, and
you and I do with our people.
Yeah.
With people that come to us. That's what we do, is like tap into what we've been working on.
Right. Breathe.
Those tools that we've been working on with each other, to remember that. It's like, yes, women for centuries can give birth by themselves, but we have all these lamas and coaching classes so that someone else can be there. So when you're in acute pain, you've got somebody there to say, hey. And then you learn to tap in within, because you're like, that's right. I've been working on this, because we're also building our spiritual stamina through endurance, through practice, through learning and skilling and mastering, which is what you and I work on individually so that we could be the example and the mentor. But it's what you do in your groups and all the things. You do so much more than I do, because you're just a little more talented with the electronics.
No, it's just,
but it's okay. I'll get there.
That is not true at all. It's just, we have different callings and you have other things that you're doing within your work. Whereas
as long as the microphone works,
I travel a now, so I have a little
the
bit more
rotary phone.
Speaking of the smoke and the smog, so I apologize for having a tissue, but
I'm doing the same thing, girl. I'm doing the same thing.
It is crazy. So I'm trying to see, it shows that there are people joining us live. If you have a question, somebody did test it for me. The comments are working. So drop a question in if you have one. I think detachment is something that a lot of people don't quite understand, right? Because you're like, well, then you're like, one of the ways that this has been portrayed, and this goes into like boundaries and things like that, right? Like they're like, well, you're so detached, you don't even care. And I'm like, no, that's not the detachment that I'm talking about. I'm not saying be so detached that you don't care about what's going on. I'm saying be detached enough that you can keep your head, like, and you can stay grounded. I really feel like, okay, so as light workers, I feel like right now we're in a crisis moment. Like, so for an example, if there's a car accident, somebody has to keep their wits about them to keep things calm and get you know what I mean? Like somebody has to be that calm space in the quote unquote disaster or crisis, right? And I feel like a lot of us as light workers, we're being called up right now to be that. Be the person who can hold it together, keep people calm, direct things where it needs to be, pay attention to what's needed. Like this person needs water. That person's going to pass out if they don't get a snack because, you know, like human, regular, calming people down. Again, breathing, like take a breath, breathe, calm yourself. Like I feel like as light workers, we're being called into that. And at the same time, what my guides had said is like, especially for June, they're like, relax into this, like relax into your daily, relax into, and I think that's so that the more relaxed we are, the more we can help others stay in that space.
Yeah, and you know, I like your analogy about like when there's an emergency, somebody's got to be there to stay calm. And we already know in our own earth plane when things are occurring, whether there's a little bit of plan or there's an immediate catastrophe, there are committees, multiple committees that come in to work on every aspect, whether it's there's a hurricane coming. So then you're going to have the road people out there and the traffic controllers and who has to take what route and where you're going to stop to replenish your car and your food and so on. You have all these committees, and then you have committees if something's already occurred, how people are going to come in and they're going to help restore and save lives. So you not so no one's going to know what committee you came in actually where your talents are, your inner talents are. You're not going to know what that is when you're trying to pick on everybody else's teams. Same thing in school. It's like, you know, you divide up a game and you're in school and you're playing dodgeball or basketball. You're always picking your besties, right, to get on your team, but they really might not be the best person equipped for you to get the ball from this end of the court to the other. Maybe you have to say, hey, I really like you as my friend, but I need this stronger individual to be on this side. I need a taller one over here and a shorter one over there.
Right.
But you got to figure out, what are
Who
you?
you are for,
What are you? Where is
what
your
is
committee?
your divine blueprint so that you know where your strengths are. I agree 100%.
Yeah. And that's where detachment comes in, because you know, you almost have to do the quiet soul's journey.
Yeah. Well, and you can't be everything to everyone. That's going to be exhausting.
Yeah, it took me a long freaking time to figure
Me too.
out.
Me too.
Because I literally given away all my energy. Gas tank was empty a lot because I'm like, well, I just spent the whole week fixing this and that, and
or doing this for
day in
them,
bed, and then I can't afford to have a day in bed. And so we've all gone through these humps and bumps of finding who we are and where we belong, and putting boundaries and value on this prime real estate. Because without this prime real estate, no action can occur.
Yes.
So you got to pick and choose your actions.
Yeah. And that's exactly, I was just going to say that. So this is another thing that I always talk, this came through, I can't remember, it's been years ago that it came through, but I remember telling it was again in the membership group, but I've shared it since then. So it's not like this is some, big secret or whatever, but one of the things that I think as light workers is we really get exhausted sometimes. And it's because it's not all on you to be everything to everyone. Right. So yes, there's a lot going on. It's super important for empaths and light workers and starseeds to learn about healthy boundaries, and then knowing what is your calling, like where are you meant to step up and where are you meant to step back. Right. Like there's another fine balance in detachment of where are you really supposed to step up, but then also there's where are you supposed to step back. And one of the things that my guides have said is this is like a relay race, and it's a long relay race, right? But when you're exhausted, if you keep pushing, you're going to ruin the relay for everybody else. Step back. When you step back, that allows somebody else to step in. And as light workers, whether we know it or not, we are all connected, and so if one of us needs to take a break or a rest, somebody else is they may not even know it. It may be unintentional, but they will step up. Yeah. So you don't ever have to worry about, well, who's going to do it if I don't? Because there's a lot of us on this planet here to hold this energy. And so if you need a break, take a break. If you need to step back, take a step back. The more you can self-nurture and have self-care and be strong within yourself, the more strong you can be for others.
I am getting all kinds of video pictures in my head right now. The relay race has always been one that comes up for me too. You know, you when you're doing a relay race, you're generally strategizing who's going to be at each location to take the baton from you because you can't carry it all the way around. You're not in a marathon. A relay race takes teamwork, right? And then I'm thinking about the TLC thing. And, I remember when I was married and it was like, oh, so you got your nails done and got a massage? Well, isn't that lovely? And I would say, yeah, well, I'm sorry you didn't put it in your calendar. And this makes me a nicer person. And that's not going to get you what you want tonight. So I suggest you rethink what you just said to me. Because if you want what you want, then I'm going to need to receive what it is that my everything needs in this
Right.
moment. So you have to learn, because so much of us that want to go into this a little bit of TLC, we feel guilty because it's like, well, we really have this responsibility and this person really needs a little bit more of me. And that's selfish of me. Well,
Mm.
damn it, get your selfish on, but
You
get it
know,
on in a way that's different.
that's so that's a paradigm that I've worked on my entire life, and I try to help others break, because that's a self-deprecation type thing, and that totally goes into unworthiness, right? So if you're believing that you're unworthy of the things that you need to physically feed your body, to mentally feed your body, spiritually feed your body, emotionally feed your body, like if you physically need medicine, or if you physically need physical therapy or massage therapy or whatever, then you need to do that. If you physically feel better when you keep yourself up, like with nails and all the things, I kind of need that, because if I don't take care of myself that way,
Mhm.
I don't feel as good as it is if I take care of myself in a way that I like. It doesn't mean that you need to get your nails done, or it doesn't mean that you need to go do any of the things that I do. But also at the same time, like, don't judge me if that's what I want to feel better, right? Same
Absolutely.
thing. Like, if I want to go get a coffee, like, don't judge me because I want to have a coffee. If you want to drink a wine, I'm not going to judge you for that, right? Like, there's all of these things about where that's another thing we've got to stop judging. And a lot of times it comes from, well, I bet that must be nice. Well, you know what? It is. And until you believe that you're worthy of that, anytime you're saying, well, it must be nice, you're actually saying that you're not worth it.
Right.
It's a really weird paradigm.
Yeah, I totally get it. I know, even just for me, back in the days when I used to do massage, I would see my hands on people's bodies, and I liked going for a manicure once a week, whether I got paint or not paint.
Mhm.
It made me feel like the extensions of my heart, which were my hands, that I had to see every day, brought beauty to me, which extended beauty to all the people that I touched.
Mhm.
And I still do it to this day in medical aesthetics and in my
Mhm.
healing work. Is I mean, okay, I got some chipped up ones right now because it's been 2 weeks, but it's important to me. And that's the one thing I like to do for myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so what, it helps me be a better person because it helps me love myself. But
Right.
it goes into this self-respect thing. You cannot blame anyone for not respecting you if you do not live and breathe respect of yourself, and finding out where those pieces are. It's not like I worked hard all week and now I deserve this glass of wine. Well, that means
Mhm.
you had to do all of this grunt stuff to get
To
there
be
to
able to
enjoy that.
yeah.
Instead of just saying, oh my goodness, my week is over. I am going to sit and bless and enjoy this grapevines that provided me this glass of
Mhm.
delicious, whatever it may be. It
Right.
could be
Right.
a workout, it could be a massage, it could be, hiking with what, it doesn't matter
It
what
could
it
be
is. It's what works
meditation.
for you.
It could be meditation. It could be reading a book. It could be Netflix and bed. Like, I have no judgment of what it is, but I know you and I are really passionate about this. Like, we want people, particularly women. Like, I really feel like we need to help women learn to honor and respect and nurture themselves, because the more we do that, and I believe this with my whole heart, the more we love ourselves, the more we love our family, our, you know what I mean, our kids, our husband, our, whatever it is, our sisters, our mothers, like our friends, the more we can fill our own cup, right? The more we can have love for ourselves, the more we can give love to others. And I know that's true for myself, because I was the classic doormat for so many years. Ask Jennifer, she'll do it. even if I was, there was so many times I look back and I would stay up till midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to get things done for other people that weren't my responsibility, but I would do it until I
Yeah, but you
learned.
know what? Sometimes we did it because we could do things a lot speedier or effectively than other people could do them.
Right.
So our cup is a little bit, I tell some people it's like your cup runneth over when you're done, when you're cooked, when you've taken too much. But some people have little miniature porcelain teacups. I said, unfortunately, I got a freaking big gulp cup. And in this big gulp cup, I can handle a lot. But when it spills,
It's
it will take
done.
out your desk.
Yeah.
It will take out what is on your desk,
Yes. I
you
love that.
know?
That's so funny.
And so I stopped being so proud of the fact that I was a big gulp cup, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? And so I started really being watching, where my tipping points were and
Hmm.
starting to pull it back. And, having that self-respect, because again, nobody and nothing will respect you if you do not set your own value, your own boundaries, your own self-love, your own care. And that is why a lot of relationships are not successful,
Hmm.
is because you haven't set that for yourself. So you may be drawing all those things to you that are just poke, poke, poke lessons. Hey, hey,
Hmm.
hey, get your boundaries, get your self-respect going there, girl, because you're getting a lot more of this coming in.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm literally like thinking back to the first, like when I first started learning about healthy boundaries. I had no idea what that was, right? Like I had no idea about healthy boundaries. And when I first started learning about it, I can remember being terrified to say no. Like if I say no, they're going to not like me anymore. They're going to be mad at me. They're going to talk bad about me. Like all of the fears. And what's funny is that didn't happen. All the fears that people were going to be, I mean, there were some times that people were mad at me, but the overall fear of what I was afraid of, it was so worth it to learn the boundaries and learn that you don't have to be everything to everyone. And I think like it's really important for empaths to hear that. it, I really feel like that's important. So whoever's listening, if that's landing with you, like sit with that and let yourself feel. You don't have to be everything to everyone. And then when you start doing that, then you can start understanding, okay, what am I meant to say yes to and what am I meant to say no to? Right? Because again, anytime you're saying yes to things that are not meant for you, you're actually pulling yourself off of your divine path.
Absolutely. And, but we all have to go through being on the committee of, I was the savior committee, you know, keep thanking me for that,
Mm-hmm.
because I need that, those accolades, and makes me feel good that I was able to do all this for everybody. And I get to the point where it's like, that's so freaking superficial. I got to get out. I got to get out of that committee. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be in that group
Well, we're
anymore.
kind
I
of
want to look back.
programmed
Yeah,
to
I want to
that.
look back and see really who needs what and where I could best contribute for the whole group, not for just what looks fancy at the moment, picking
Mm-hmm.
and choosing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, you and I kind of both had the journey of, I don't want the big house anymore. I don't want this illusion of this anymore.
I don't think that was my choice. So
Well, mine was,
I'm
but
just
I'm just saying I don't want any of this anymore. I don't, or being to the point where, whether it was taken or whether it had to be given up, or whether it was a choice, doesn't matter what it is. There's many of us out here right
right.
now that have very few possessions, physical possessions, live in suitcases, and feel like, for me, I'll speak for me, like I have more than I could possibly want.
Right. And I
You
want to
know?
clarify on that because I kind of jokingly say it wasn't my choice. Of course, it was my choice, right? But
Yes, it was your choice.
for me, it was one of those things where my guides, they're like, I think you like it was like this thing that came in and it's like, sell your house. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
But then when I sat with it, when I prayed on it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we're meant to do. And we made a choice as a family, actually. I'm like, I prayed on it, felt right, told my husband, he prayed on it, felt right. Then we told our kids, like we didn't take that lightly. And that's another thing that I'm seeing is don't be a victim to spirit, right? Just because your guides and angels say, hey, do this, you can't take away your own divine sovereignty and say, well, they told me to do this. Like that's a cop out. You have to choose. And I know that we like, yes, that was a divine download, but I chose to feel it, sit with it, and follow it, right? but I'm not trying. I mean, I joke, but I'm not a victim of it. Like, yes, that was a conscious choice that I made. Even though it was not something that I would have probably thought of myself. Right.
Right.
I don't think that's because I literally thought we were going to be in that house forever. And like, I'd be raising my grandkids there.
Yeah, but it's an important thing you just said is you can hear one thing and then follow that. But it's
Mm,
a very different thing to be on the court of feeling it.
mm,
Because the feeling is the deepest God source confirmation.
mm-hmm.
And then it's usually something you can't explain with words.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's kind of where we are with detaching from what everybody's supposed to tell us what we're supposed to think and feel. Until you detach from those things, you really don't know what is your own thought, what is your
Right.
own individual feeling. Because it starts at birth. You're told
Mhm.
what you're going to eat at the family table, and then you learn to pick up taste buds on that, what you like for activities, and where you fit in the herd of the family, and then you carry all these things into your adult life, and then you may rebel and all these other things. And if we can just stop and detach from what we think everybody else's guidelines are and create your own guidelines. And I was thinking this morning, about 2 weeks ago, I was something said, "Hey Sandy, order a mini air filter for your room." I was like, "What?" Well, I mean, oh, okay, I guess I could do that. And so I started scanning around looking for a few mini air filters, and I was like, "Oh, I'm hearing just put one right there on your desk. It'll just help filter some of the air, help with allergens and things like that." I had no clue what was coming
Right.
10 days later. And literally this morning, I was like doing something and I was like, "Oh, I've only turned that thing on once and it's sitting right here on my desk." And Spirit was like, 10 days ago, order an air filter. I'm like, "What? Where did that come from? Maybe I
Mhm.
should just order another fan to keep my room cool." They're like, "No air filter." I'm like, Okay,
Right.
okay." And it felt right. And I
Mhm.
did it. And there's a reason why I have it.
Mhm.
Now, if it's going to put a dent into what's happening when the windows are open, I seriously doubt it.
But at least
But I
it's
listened.
right. I was gonna
I
say, and
listened and
it
I
made
combined
sense.
it with the
Right.
feeling.
Right. Well, and that kind of brings us full circle because I know like you and I could probably talk about this all day, but we're almost at 45 minutes. So I think that's going to bring us full circle right now to back to your nervous system and calming yourself down. Because if
Mhm.
you're not in that calm, grounded, stable, trusting state, you're not going to be able to hear or listen or feel when those divine intuition things come in, let alone feel secure enough to follow them. Right. So, with everything we've talked about and with the detachment and the boundaries and our nervous system and calming down and being that stability in the light, I feel like that bring this whole conversation, I feel like just comes back full circle to one of the things that I think is the most empowering thing that you can do for yourself right now in this moment, being June of 2023. Learn to breathe, learn to calm yourself down and physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually breathe, calm your body. The more we can calm the physical nervous system, the easier it's going to be to calm the emotions, the thoughts, and everything else that goes along with it. What do you think about that?
Well, I agree with you. And I think that's been a major message is get your finger on your own pulse,
Mm-hmm.
because your pulse has to contribute to the pulse of the universe. And so if your pulse isn't in alignment and you're contributing to those fear frequencies, then shame on you, because you have control of this transmitter. You have a choice, right? You can either follow what everybody else is doing, or you can stop, drop, sit, connect with your breath, try to get some divine messages that suit what it is that you really came here to be a part of,
Right.
right? To be part of the healthy changes, not part of the unconscious, unhealthy things that
Mm-hmm.
are occurring. And when you were talking, it was bringing a story to me about I would sit on my back deck and I have these giant carpenter bees, which are very intimidating. So I looked it up and I'm like, they don't sting. They don't really land on you. They're protecting. And I was like, oh, I can handle that. So I go out and I start dialoguing with them and they dive bomb me and so we finally started having some kind of dialogue where they stopped freaking me out, even though I know they couldn't sting me.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm learning to put my hand on the pulse there, fast forward a few weeks later, I'm at a friend's house and a bee lands on my hand. And of course, your thing is you you naturally want to swat it away
Mhm.
because you know it can sting and harm you. But I didn't have that inclination to smack it.
Mm.
I wanted to observe it. I was looking at it as messaging to me. But
Mm.
as I'm looking at it, I could feel my human getting trepidation, the heart rate coming up. And I was paying attention to, oh dear, what if it stings me? And I'm like, well, so what? What if it does? It's going to hurt for a little bit. And then my mind turned to, no, I don't want to create a nervous energy within myself that makes this bee respond to stinging me with the only stinger it's equipped with.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it loses its life because I couldn't contain my heart rate and my nervous system. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I think you're better than me. I probably would have been freaking out.
So
But I mean, I'm kind of bringing light to that, but it's so true. Like you've got it, this goes back to that crisis situation. Can you keep yourself calm in that?
Yes.
Right? Like, I've had experiences like that as well. And I'm actually like, I've been stung before. And when I did, like, it looked like, you know, those gloves, and if you take a glove and blow it up, that's what my hand looked like.
It's
But
painful.
yeah, but also since then it's the same thing. Like when you have kids, you learn, like, the first thing I always tell, if they get hurt or if they fall off their bike, or if it was like, it's okay, breathe, let's breathe first. Once I would get them breathing, then we would assess, okay, where are you hurt? Is this a Band-Aid or is this an ER? Do you know what I mean? Like, so, but somehow instinctively, I always knew breathing is the first thing that you need to do. And even though I've been stung before by bees, well, a bee, I have progressively over the years been like, okay, there's a bee, I'm just going to breathe. And you don't have that reaction. So I understand exactly where you're at. And I feel like that's how, like, I feel like I want to say that's how the news might be here coming up. Like, don't react like
Well,
that.
I'm also hearing, you know, when you transmit out the fear, the bees become more antagonistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that is a metaphor for what is really happening right now. Is when you have an opportunity to contribute energy,
Mm-hmm.
where are you going to actually place your contribution? And
Right.
is your contribution the best it can possibly be, that's going to be counterproductive or productive? Like, what is it that you want to contribute? How do you want to contribute? And how much value and alignment are you putting in to that? And that really requires going back to the breath,
Mm-hmm.
and listening and feeling and seeing and sensing answers that you receive. So you've got to detach from the cray cray around you, externally and internally, and learn to work with a dialogue that helps you come to more in tune responses versus living your life so reactionary.
Well,
And like you said, some sit is a coming up.
yeah.
And you're going to get hit with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the matter of, is it going to land in your eye and blind you, or are you going to be able to know it's coming and you kind of know how to respond to it and keep yourself a little cleaner?
Mm-hmm. Energy clean. It
And
definitely,
help
spiritual
others
hygiene is
stay
huge.
there. Yes, we
Yeah.
don't need the crap hygiene.
So yeah, I've been
It's
totally
old
talking about spiritual hygiene. I recorded an episode just on that on the
Mhm.
podcast. So okay, so like I said, I know you and I could talk about this forever. And when you were talking about the bee, I'm like, oh my gosh, we could go into vibration and frequency. And I'm like, okay, we got to wrap this up because we've been out here for already 45 minutes. So I love you
Yes.
so much. Thank you for coming on and talking about this with me today. To those of you watching, thanks for coming and joining us today. The replay will be available, and I'll get the information on how to stay in touch with Sandra, and also how to find out my stuff. Embodied Grace Community is my favorite place. That's my community. That's my people. I love that hangout on Facebook. So if you want to join us there, Sandra, thanks for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys all soon. Bye, everybody.